Hey, what's going on, traders? It's Johnny here, Trader X. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into the channel. I hope you guys have all been enjoying your Monday today and we're all able to end green. But as usual, I'm going to go ahead and get right into my recap and let you guys know exactly how my trading went. But before I start, I do want to give you guys a friendly reminder that I am going to be paper trading this week, right? So this is a simulation account, as you guys can tell from the top left here, right? So I don't want to, mislead anyone and make them think that I'm trading real money. This week is completely going to be fake money, right? Or paper money for me. And the reason for that is, for any of you who are new, I haven't been trading well the past few weeks. And so I thought it would be in my best interest to, continue to trade paper money for a while until I prove to be a little more consistent in myself and, get some of that confidence back. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get right into today's recap. So as you guys can tell from the thumbnail, today was a green day, right? And so I was able to make $213 on ticker symbol TQQQ. And you guys can ignore this 7-cent difference on SQQQ. For some reason, my paper money account, right, my simulation account glitches whenever I buy into a stock. So it always makes me buy in and buy out right at market open before it starts working properly. So that's why, you guys do see this one share here, right, where I bought in and sold out. So you guys can ignore that. For today, all I did was trade TQQQ, right? And that's how I was able to actually profit. And so, yeah, as you guys can see, I only had, if you take away these two filled orders, I only had a total of 6 filled orders, right? Which means I really only took 3 day trades today and was still able to make over 2%, right? So I'm going to go ahead and explain to you guys exactly how I was able to do that. So in terms of what I saw heading into the market today, I saw that the Nasdaq was selling off pre-market, right? Indicating signs of a sell-off, trading between the middle and bottom VWAP and making these lower lows and lower highs, right? But what did we see as soon as market opened? The direction completely changed, right? So this thing ended up bouncing, right? Breaking above the middle VWAP. And so that's exactly where I decided to, take my first trade. So my first trade is this one over here. As you guys can tell, it was at 637 and I sold at 642. And just letting you guys know, to give you guys a little background. So today I was trying a bit of a different strategy. As you guys know, I do normally trade with $10,000 and I decided to do that today with paper money. But I actually decided to buy in everything at once rather than average up. And the reason for that is I felt that in terms of my trading, I really struggled to average up and, find a good area where it's smart to average up without it completely wrecking me, right? So I decided, since it is simulation trading and, it's a perfect opportunity to go ahead and try something new. So I wanted to try implementing something that I haven't done in terms of my trading before, right? Just to see how it works out and, it rather than risk my real money, when I'm actually trading on a real account, not just paper money, it's definitely would get me more emotional trying out something new. So what better way to try out a new strategy or implement something to your strategy than doing it with paper money first, right? So I get the benefit of practicing how, I would have handled the market today, but, without any actual financial risk being at play here. So that's definitely a big reason why, trying out different strategies with a simulation account can be helpful. But I'm going to go ahead and continue on with my recap. So as you guys can tell, I bought into TQQQ at 637. It's sold at 642. So why did I decide to buy into TQQQ? Well, as you guys can tell, the Nasdaq, as I mentioned, right, broke above the middle VWAP, right? And so it was trading sideways, right, indicating more signs of a sell-off all pre-market. But once it finally broke that middle VWAP, it did so with a good amount of volume, right? You guys can see the volume bars absolutely spiking. So once it broke above the middle VWAP and pulled on back, right, you guys can see I bought in at 637, right? So right as it was pulling back, right, to correct itself back to the middle VWAP, I decided to buy in. I sent it somewhere here. And as this thing continued to push up, I ended up selling almost at the high here, right? So I was able to buy in here, sell out near the high, and that was able to make me, if I'm not mistaken, about $80. So that was a very decent trade to start off the day. And for all of you wondering, well, just because this thing broke above the middle VWAP, how did you know that it was gonna actually bounce and continue to rally? Well, you never really know for sure, right? But what I did was I took a step back, looked at the past, few days of how the Nasdaq's been trading, and I noticed that on Friday it was trading pretty similar to around the same support level, right? So given it was holding that general support area, I saw this thing pull on back and break above, right? So when else did we see that happen? Well, on Friday, later on in the day, right, closer towards 11 a.m., we saw this thing break above the middle VWAP, pull on back, and then it continued to rally on the day, right? So I saw the same kind of pattern setting itself up. So as it broke above the middle VWAP, I waited for a bit of a pullback, and then I bought in, and then, this thing continued to uptrend on the day. Very, very similar to the patterns we saw on Friday. So that's exactly why I decided to buy in when I did, right? So it's not like I knew for sure it was going to happen, but I was ready to manage my risk. So I bought in as this thing pulled on back, right? Expecting this thing to climb on the day, and it actually did, right? So if this thing broke below the middle VWAP, I would have cut my losses there. So I was being very strategic in terms of where I was going to stop out and where I felt it made sense to me. But as this thing pushed up, pulled on back, I bought in, right? I was able to sell at a previous, or at a future resistance area. I didn't necessarily know it was going to get rejected there. I just decided to lock it in because, the trade went my way pretty quickly too. Within 4 or 5 minutes, right? I was in and out and I was happy with that profit. And so as you guys can tell, my next trade didn't come until 7:01 and I sold at 7:06. So what exactly was I waiting for? I was waiting for this thing as I got into a bit of this play here, right? It ended up pulling on back and continued to push. I was waiting for a bit of a bigger pullback before I decided to get in, right? So because stocks, the way they move, they don't just move in a straight line up, straight line down, right? As you guys can tell, they'll have pullbacks before they continue to rally, right? So as long as you understand the general direction that it's headed and you do your job in managing risk, if it does go south, then you're really setting yourself up to do well, right? So as this thing ended up pulling on back aggressively after touching the top VWAP, I still felt like it had more to surge on the day, especially given the past few days and how it performed Friday, right? This thing didn't just push up, pull on back, and then just die out, right? It would continue to push up, pull on back, push up, pull on back. So I felt like we were going to see something similar today too. So that's why I continue to trade it, even though it did start to pull back some, right? So as this thing ended up pulling back, as I mentioned, right, I bought back in at 7:01, it sold at 7:06. So as you guys can tell, this thing pushed up, got rejected, right? So right around 7:01. So I waited for this thing to sell off a decent amount, bought back in, and I was able to sell at 7:06. So right at the top here actually too. Why did I decide to sell up here? Well, I was seeing it previously get rejected here, around here, right? So I thought it was in my best interest that once it did approach these general, more of a resistance area, then I'd probably do my part in locking in profits, right? And so that's ultimately how I was able to make money on the second trade. And then the last trade I took was at 7:19 and sold at 7:35. So same thing I was waiting for, right? So this thing ended up selling off, right? I didn't know it was going to sell off right when I sold, but it did. And then I waited for this thing to push up, right? And as you guys will notice, right, at 7:19 I bought in. This thing pushed up, became overextended, had a decent sell-off, right? And at 7:19, this last candle, I bought in somewhere around here, so I definitely didn't get filled at the best area, right? As you guys can tell, this thing ended up dropping the middle VWAP before I actually ended up entering the green, right? So I was down on this position, probably closer to $50, right? Because this is only, well, the ETFs themselves are triple leverage, right? That correlate with the Nasdaq. So TQQQ, if I bought in here and this thing dropped, I wouldn't just be down 0.18% of $10,000, right? Which is $18. I would be down triple that. So that's why I'm saying I would have been closer down to $50. But as we can see, it bounced, right? It ended up bouncing, correcting itself, and I didn't sell out until 7:40s, I believe, right? 7:35 I sold out. So once it had this nice little surge here is when I cut it. So somewhere right around here. Why did I cut it exactly? Well, it's been previously rejected around here, right? So based off previous patterns, I did my part in, locking in profits where it made sense. There was obviously a chance it could have continued to rally, right? And yes, I missed out on this little bit of margin here, but I'm trying to buy in and sell out when it makes sense to me, right? And just, being hopeful that this thing would continue to rally, even though it's had clear resistance areas, right? earlier on in the day, it just doesn't make much sense to me, right? I'd rather lock in profits and be safe than miss out on, this little extra margin here. So that's why I felt like today I did a pretty good job in terms of buying in, buying out, and, not overcomplicating things. So, I was trading with $10,000. I was able to make $213 on the day, right? And so I am very, very happy with my performance and, my new strategy of not necessarily averaging up, right? Does this mean that everything's always going to go according to plan? Of course not, right? There could be a trade that all it takes is one trade for me to not manage my risk for things to go really south, right? Since I'm buying in with my full amount, I am well aware that if I let a trade, a loser, go on for too long, I could be down 2, 3, 4%. And with the dollar amount I'm trading with, that could be two, three, $400, right? So that's why heading into the rest of the week, my job is to make sure that I don't give myself that one loser trade that wipes away all my profit for the week, right? I'm going to make sure I try not to lose more than 1%, right? More than $100 on any given trade, because in the long run, that's really just going to help me out, right? I can always get back into a trade that was losing me money if I really felt like it was going to recover, right? But it's better to cut your loss somewhere where it's more manageable, like a 1% loss, than, let it run and risk being, down 5, 6, 7% and just bag holding it the rest of the day, just hoping things recover, right? But that's everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys so much for your time and for just, listening to me talk. I really do hope, anything you guys heard in this video was informative at all. If you guys are new to the channel, we really do appreciate you guys dropping a like and subscribing. It really does mean a lot to us. And if any of you guys have any questions at all, want me to break down any stock indicator, just go ahead and drop a comment and I am more than happy to answer it and, make a follow-up video, answering your question. But thank you guys so much again for your time. I will be posting a recap tomorrow, so I hope to see you guys then. Take care and have a good rest of your day.